Once again, it's time for Once Upon a Time. Is this right? Welcome to 401 Stories. Once upon a time, there lived a little prince. Now, this little prince was not from Earth. Instead, he lived on a faraway planet that was scarcely larger than a house. If he longed to see a sunset, for instance, he only had to move his chair a few steps, and then he could see the day end and twilight fall. The little prince loved to watch the sunset, especially when he was sad. There was not much else to see on his planet, aside from a single beautiful flower that he loved dearly, and 3 volcanoes, one of which was extinct. And so one day he left his home to visit the nearby asteroids in order to add to his knowledge.
Traveled so long, till I was going to stop.
The first of them was inhabited by a king. Clad in royal purple and ermine, he was seated upon a throne which was at the same time both simple and majestic.
"Ah, here is a subject!"
exclaimed the king when he saw the little prince coming. And the little prince asked himself,
How could he recognize me when he's never seen me before?
for he did not know how the world is simplified for kings. To them, all people are subjects.
"Approach, so that I may see you better,"
said the king, who felt consumingly proud of at last being a king over somebody. The little prince looked everywhere to find a place to sit down, but the entire planet was crammed and obstructed by the king's magnificent ermine robe. So he remained standing upright, and, since he was tired, he yawned.
"It is contrary to etiquette to yawn in the presence of a king,"
The monarch said to him.
"I forbid you to do so."
I can't help it. I can't stop myself from yawning. I have come on a very long journey, and I haven't had any sleep.
Then I order you to yawn. It is years since I have seen anyone yawning. Yawns, to me, are objects of curiosity. Come now, yawn again. It is an order.
I can't anymore.
Murmured the little prince, now completely embarrassed.
Then I order you to sometimes yawn, and sometimes to
And he sputtered a little and seemed vexed. For what the king fundamentally insisted upon was that his authority should be respected. He tolerated no disobedience. He was an absolute monarch. But because he was a good man, he made his orders reasonable.
If I ordered a general,
He would say, by way of example,
if I ordered a general to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not obey me, that would not be the fault of the general. It would be my fault.
May I sit down?
came now a timid inquiry from the little prince.
I order you to do so.
The king answered him, and majestically gathered in a fold of his ermine mantle. But the little prince was wondering. The planet was tiny. Over what could this king really rule?
Sire, May I please ask a question?
I order you to ask me a question.
Sire, over what do you rule?
Over everything,
said the king, with magnificent simplicity.
Over everything?
The king made a sweeping gesture, which took in his planet, the other planets, and all the stars.
Over all that?
Over all that,
the king answered, for his rule was not only absolute, it was also universal.
And the stars obey you?
Certainly they do. They obey instantly. I do not permit insubordination.
Such power was a thing for the little prince to marvel at. If he had been a master of such complete authority, he would have been able to watch the sun set not 44 times in one day, but 72 or even 100 or even 200 times without ever having to move his chair. And because he felt a bit sad as he remembered his little planet, which he had forsaken, he plucked up his courage to ask the king a favor.
I should like to see a sunset. Do me that kindness, please. Order the sun to set.
If I ordered a general to fly from one flower to another like a butterfly, or to write a tragic drama, or to change himself into a seabird, and if the general had not carried out the order he had received, which one of us would be in the wrong? The general or myself?
You!
Exactly! One must require from each one the duty which each one can perform.
And the king went on.
Accepted authority rests first of all on reason. If you ordered your people to go and throw themselves into the sea, they would rise up in revolution. I have the right to require obedience, because my orders are reasonable.
Then my sunset?
The little prince reminded him, for he never once forgot a question, once he had asked it.
You shall have your sunset. I shall command it. But, according to my science of government, I shall wait until conditions are favorable.
When will that be?
Replied the king, and before saying anything else, he consulted a bulky almanac.
That will be about... That'll be this evening about 20 minutes to 8. And you will see how well I am obeyed.
The little prince yawned. He was regretting his lost sunset, and he was already beginning to be a little bored.
I have nothing more to do here,
he said to the king.
So I shall set out on my way again.
Don't go,
said the king, who was very proud of finally having a subject.
Do not go. I will make you a minister.
Minister of what?
Minister of justice.
But there's nobody here to judge.
We do not know that. I have not yet made a complete tour of my kingdom. I am very old, and there is no room here for a carriage, and it tires me to walk.
Oh, but I have looked already,
said the little prince, turning around to give one more glance to the other side of the planet. And on that side, as on this one, there was nobody. Nobody at all.
Then you shall judge yourself. That is the most difficult thing of all. It is much more difficult to judge oneself than to judge others. If you succeed in judging yourself rightly, then you are indeed a man of true wisdom.
Yeah, but I can judge myself anywhere. I do not need to live on this planet to do that.
I have good reason to believe that somewhere on my planet there is an old rat. I hear him at night. You can judge this old rat. From time to time, You will condemn him to death. Thus, his life will depend upon your justice. But you will pardon him on each occasion, for he must be treated thriftily. He is the only one we have.
I do not like to condemn anyone to death. No, I think I'll go on my way.
No,
said the king. But the little prince, having now completed his preparations for departure, had no wish to grieve the old monarch.
If your majesty wishes to be promptly obeyed,
he said,
he should be able to give me a reasonable order. He should be able, for example, to order me to be gone at the end of, 1 minute. It seems to me the conditions are favorable.
As the king made no answer, the little prince hesitated a moment, and then, with a sigh, he took his leave.
I make you my ambassador,
the king called out, hastily. He had a magnificent air of authority.
Grown-ups are very strange.
The little prince said to himself as he continued on his journey. The next planet the little prince visited belonged to a businessman. Now this man was so much occupied that he did not even raise his head at the little prince's arrival.
Good morning,
the little prince said to him.
Your cigarette has gone out.
3 and 2 make 5, 5 and 7 make 12, 12 and 3 make 15. Good morning. 15 and 7 make 22, 22 and 6 make 28. I don't have time to light it again. 26 and 5 make 31. Whew. Okay, that makes 501,622,731.
500 million what?
Are you still here? 501 million. Look, I can't stop. I have so much to do. I'm concerned with matters of consequence. I don't amuse myself with balderdash. 2 and 5 make 7, and 5 and 7 make 12, 12 and
501 million what?
Repeated the little prince, who never in his life had let go of a question once he had asked it. The businessman raised his head.
During the 54 years that I have inhabited this planet, I have been disturbed only 3 times. The first time was 22 years ago when some giddy goose fell from goodness knows where. He made the most frightful noise that resounded all over the place, and I made 4 mistakes in my addition. The second time, 11 years ago, I was distracted by an attack of rheumatism. I don't get enough exercise because I have no time for loafing. The third time, well, this is it. I was saying then, 501 million...
Millions of what?
The businessman suddenly realized that there was no hope of being left in peace until he answered this question.
Millions of those little objects,
he said.
Which one sometimes sees in the sky?
Flies?
No. Those little glittering objects.
Bees?
No. Little golden objects that set lazy men to idle dreaming. As for me, I'm concerned with matters of consequence. There's no time for idle dreaming in my life.
Oh, you mean the stars?
Yes, that's it, the stars.
What do you do with 500 millions of stars?
501,622,731. I'm concerned with matters of consequence. I am accurate.
And what do you do with these stars?
What do I do with them?
Yes.
Nothing. I own them.
You own the stars?
Yes.
Oh, but I've already met a king.
Kings do not own. Kings reign over. It is a very different matter.
And what good does it do you to own the stars?
It does me the good of making me rich.
And what good does it do you to be rich?
It makes it possible for me to buy more stars, if any are discovered.
How is it possible for one to own the stars?
To whom do they belong?
I don't know. To nobody?
Then they belong to me, because I was the first person to think of it.
Is that all that's necessary?
Certainly. When you find a diamond that belongs to no one, it is yours. When you discover an island that belongs to nobody, it is yours. When you get an idea before anybody else, you take out a patent on it, and it is yours. So with me, I own the stars, because nobody else before me has ever thought of owning them.
Yes, that is very true. And what do you do with them?
I administer them. I count them. and recount them. It is difficult, but I am a man who is naturally interested in matters of consequence.
The little prince was still not satisfied.
If I owned a silk scarf,
He said,
I could put it around my neck and take it away with me. If I owned a flower, I could pluck that flower and take it away with me. But you can't pluck the stars from heaven.
No, but I can put them in the bank.
What does that mean?
That means that I write the number of my stars on a little piece of paper, and then I put this paper in a drawer and I lock it with a key.
And that is all?
That is enough.
said the businessman.
Well, it is entertaining.
The little prince thought.
It is poetic. But, it is of no great consequence.
In regards to matters of consequence, the little prince had ideas which were very different from those of the grown-ups.
I myself own a flower,
He continued his conversation with the businessman.
which I water every single day. And I own 3 volcanoes, which I clean out every single week. For I also clean out the one that's extinct, 'cause, one never knows. It is of some use to my volcanoes, and it is of some use to my flower that I own them. But you, sir, are of no use to the stars.
The businessman opened his mouth, but he found nothing to say in response. And the little prince went away.
The grown-ups are certainly altogether extraordinary.
He said simply, talking to himself as he continued on his journey. The next planet was very strange. It was the smallest of all. There was just enough room on it for a street lamp and a lamplighter. The little prince was not able to reach any explanation for the use of a street lamp and a lamplighter somewhere in the heavens on a planet which had no people and not even one house. But he said to himself, nevertheless,
It may well be that this man is absurd, but he is not so absurd as the king or the businessman, for at least his work has some meaning. When he lights his street lamp, it is as if he brought one more star to life, or one flower. And when he puts out his lamp, he sends the flower or the star to sleep. That is a beautiful occupation. And since it is beautiful, it is truly useful.
when he arrived on the planet, he respectfully saluted the lamplighter.
Good morning. Why did you just put out your lamp?
Those are the orders,
replied the lamplighter.
Good morning.
What are the orders?
The orders are that I put out my lamp. Good evening.
And he lit his lamp again.
But why did you just light it again?
Those are the orders.
I do not understand.
There's nothing to understand. Orders are orders. Good morning.
And he put out his lamp, and then he mopped his forehead with a handkerchief that was decorated with red squares.
I follow a terrible profession. In the old days, it was reasonable. I put the lamp out in the morning, and in the evening I lighted it again. I had the rest of the day for relaxation, and the rest of the night for sleep.
And the orders have been changed since that time?
The orders have not changed. That's the tragedy. From year to year, the planet has turned more rapidly, and the orders have not been changed.
Then what?
Then the planet now makes a complete turn every minute, and I no longer have a single second for repose. Once every minute, I have to light my lamp and put it out.
That is very funny. A day only lasts 1 minute where you live?
That's not funny at all,
said the lamplighter.
Oh, we've been talking here together. A month has gone by.
Whoa, a month?
Yes, a month. 30 minutes. 30 days. Good evening.
And again, he lit his lamp. And as the little prince watched him, he felt that he loved this lamplighter who was so faithful to his orders. And he remembered the sunsets, which he himself had gone to seek in other days, merely by pulling up his chair. And he wanted to help his new friend.
You know, I can tell you a way you can rest whenever you want to.
I always want to rest,
said the lamplighter. For it is possible for a man to be faithful and lazy at the same time. The little prince went on with his explanation.
Your planet is so small that 3 strides will take you all the way around it. To be always in the sunshine, you only need walk along slowly. When you want to rest, just walk, and the day will last as long as you like.
That doesn't do me much good,
said the lamplighter.
The one thing I love in life is to sleep.
Oh, then you're unlucky,
said the little prince.
I am unlucky,
said the lamplighter.
Good morning.
And he put out his lamp.
That man,
said the little prince to himself, as he continued further on his journey.
That man would be scorned by the king and the businessman. But he's the only one of them who does not seem to me to be ridiculous. Perhaps it's because he's thinking of something other than himself.
And he breathed a sigh of regret, and said to himself again,
That poor man is the only one of them who I could have made my friend. But his planet is indeed too small. There's no room on it for 2 people.
But what the little prince did not dare confess was that he was sorry most of all to leave this planet because it was blessed every day with 1,440 sunsets. This episode of 401 Stories was adapted, performed, and produced by me, Joe Thoreau. Special thanks go out to Nicole Tagel, who designed the 401 Stories artwork, as well as the band Murder by Death, who gave me permission to use the song Lost River as the 401 Stories theme music. Additional music in this episode was also performed by Murder by Death. The novella The Little Prince was written and illustrated by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I was originally introduced to the story when my parents enrolled me in a children's theater group, oh so many moons ago, and our final performance was an adaptation of this masterpiece. Now I had the privilege of playing the aviator, as well as the king and the businessman. And I was also the guy who stood backstage and turned the lights on and off during the lamplighter scene. The Little Prince has been my favorite book for most of my life, and I make it a point to reread it every year or so in order to keep me, to remind me what's truly important and truly beautiful. Life can be so hard and so exhausting. It seems as if a gravity-like force is constantly pulling me away from who I really want to be. So, I have a tattoo of the Little Prince on my right shoulder as a reminder that it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. And what is essential is invisible to the eye. I am a father and a husband, and I have jobs, and it's important to pay my bills and remember appointments and mow the lawn. I am an adult, but I refuse to be a grown-up. This episode of 401 Stories is not only a tribute to my favorite book, it's an attempt to come full circle and to bring this story back to the dramatic form in which I first met the Little Prince. It's also kind of a test run, because I'm planning on producing a full audio drama of the Little Prince, with a full cast and original music and all the bells and whistles. If you happen to be at all interested in this project, please get in touch, and I'd love to hear from you. It is, of course, a matter of great consequence. And you can reach me on Twitter at 401stories, facebook.com/401stories, 401stories@gmail.com, or on the website, you guessed it, 401stories.com. I sincerely hope you enjoyed today's story, and thank you very much for listening.